welcome to UberCube After Dark. This is your host, Anthony Adams, aka UberBear. Now, for this particular episode, there is the potential that our language might be a little naughty, and we might have some swear words in here. So for all the little ones or people that are offended by that, please just go ahead and check out now. We're not going to get too gross here. I'll throw some ducks in here, but if the language gets a little loose than what we're normally doing, and I'll label it as such, I just wanted to kind of PG-13-ish, etc. So let's carry on with the episode. So this is super informal. We've got Usman on still. Say hi, Usman.
Hello, I'm here again.
Usman.
Or still here?
So I haven't told the other two, and I've been reading a lot of discourse in various discords, which is hard to say actually, thinking out loud, about, and if anybody actually saw me post something on, at this point it's a little late, but Bluesky, I posted that we're playing Skillless Cube, about the fact that powered vintage cube, that it's a skillless environment. And I'm going to say that with a bit of, I guess, irony label to it, or a little bit of joke, a little bit of jest, but that there's no skill involved with power maxed cubes. And now I see Stu, his face is lighting up, but don't go yet, Stu.
I'm saying nothing.
Usman, did I kind of frame that accurately? And again, this is just, I have a reason for wanting to do this.
Yeah, or at least there's less skill in those kinds of cubes.
Let's go ahead and start. How Scooby-Doo, you wait till the end and they pull the mask off the villains and they go, if it wasn't for those meddling kids, and I knew it was the farmer the whole time. I'm not going to waste your time. Here's my thoughts on this before we go down this road, and whatever we may talk about, just as an open debate amongst us. I want to say this. I want to say this very openly. I do strongly believe as a person that if we're going to encourage people to come into the cube community, to embrace the idea of cube, we have to be open-minded. I don't know how to put this in words. I actually tried to frame this in different language that I used to Usman that was very personal that I won't share. But I think that we have to be a lot more open to the idea of, well, some people like powered vintage. Some people like low-powered. Some people like thematic. Some people like cubes that have modified rules. If we start doing factions or start doing, I guess, discourse is healthy, and then there's a point where I think it becomes unhealthy. And I think it becomes almost like you start closing yourself off. Kind of like, I like Commander, but if we start making fun of people who play Commander, I'm not sure what good that actually does in the idea and the strength of growing.
Don't yuck someone's yum.
Yeah, you're trying to grow a community. Let's start with that as a baseline based on any of the opinions we share right now. And I'm not trying to preach. I'm not on pulpit. But I think if we're going to say, hey, you like powered max cube and you say this card sucks, I mean, that's an opinion that you have. Please explain that to me. But we can't take these two and make analogs between everything. Am I wrong?
If I could interject.
Yeah, go ahead.
An expression that I've learned that I've applied a lot in life is that you can be as sweet as a peach, but there's just some people that don't like peaches. And not only does that just generally apply for how you carry yourself, just remembering that no matter how much you try to people please for everybody, sometimes there are people that are unpleasable. In the same category, you can apply it to your game theory, into your cube environments, etc. And for example, the Fey cube is a relatively popular cube. There's a lot of things that people really like about it. But I've also had people push a lot of criticisms that are solely based on the fact that they are only looking for that kind of high-powered environment. They're looking for speed. They're looking for things that the Fey cube is not, right? No matter how much I balance around the Fey cube or play around the Fey cube, those people will never be my target market, right? And it's important to keep that in mind when you are as a curator or as a drafter.
Agreed. I actually was in Gainesville, Florida this week, and I saw a lime green Lamborghini with racks on top for surfboards. This is a high-performance vehicle that this person's actually decided to downgrade and put surfboards on top of it. This may sound stupid what I'm saying, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. What I mean is that person said, well, I'm going to buy this really expensive, high-performance, high-yield card, V12, 220 miles an hour, and I'm not going to drive that fast. I'm actually just going to put surfboards on top and I'm going to go to the beach. That's their right to do that, the same as it is whenever we do a cube. And they go, well, I want to run this card for these reasons. It runs at this speed. We talked about Moon Shadow in a recent episode that may or may not fit, back to contextually speaking, in a powered vintage cube. But that's all about, I guess, subject and reasoning of that person. what I'm trying to say, and I'm going to pass the ball here to the torch to Usman. I think we have to get back to this vibe of, you said yucking someone else's yum. It creates bad vibes, bad beats. It doesn't create a welcoming atmosphere. I'm not saying you shouldn't voice your opinions. Everybody should have opinions. Our opinions make us different, right? That's what makes us unique as individuals. But I do strongly believe as a community, it can be, help me out, Usman, unattractive. You're trying to get your commander pod to come over, and they're having trouble with maybe some of their social interactions, but you want to invite them into your pod of 8, but they're seeing you're bickering about power level and whatnot. What are you doing to actually embrace the idea of magic at the source of the gathering?
First, I want to say that saying, May, that you said about, just like you can be sweet as a peach, but some people just don't like peaches. That's just brilliant. I thought that was really good. I do tend to see sometimes, over the years, I have seen sometimes just kind of silos within cube circles where it's just very insular sometimes towards like, it's like that meme with like I forget how to describe it, but it's like the two kind of like parallel things where there's like windmills or something. It's like our noble whatever and like whatever this savage whatever. I don't know if I'm trying to think of what that meme is called, but it's like something like that where it's just like decrying whatever of somebody else is just like, well, this person's an idiot because they like whatever. And it's just like it's so counterproductive and just, I don't know, it's just not good.
It lacks substance for anything meaningful within the community.
Right. You have to kind of remember why you started playing the game, right? So I've been playing for a long time, but I remember sitting, again, very crisscross applesauce on a hard floor in a government building with a bottle of Captain Morgan's and 4 individuals, and I just learned what Sarah Angel was, and I hated that card so much. But it was the joy of, like, we didn't even know these rules, and we had this little guidebook that we opened up, and you attacked me with Shadow, and what do you mean I can't block this, right? That was kind of the joy of, like, the kitchen table vibe. And we're not kids no more. I'm not a kid no more. I'm 48 years old, but I'm outside looking in and I'm seeing kind of, I don't know, these micro little subsets that are beginning to happen in our community. I just want to make sure we stay bonded. And I don't know how to say that, right? Like, I'm trying to say that the best way I can without I'm not trying to be on a pulpit. I'm just an older gentleman that's, I've lived a life like everybody else has lived a life. And I'm watching from the outside and I'm seeing these things that, it's not meant to be negative, but it's, I'm anti-Power Max Vintage Cube, and then you assume that the Power Max Moto people are looking back at you going, well, I'm anti-Uber Bear's Artifact Cube. I think it sucks. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I don't like your Popper Cube. I'm not sure what you get out of that. And I thought it would be good as 4 people that talked about it, and I actually want to talk about your Diablo Cube for a little minute. Again, I want to focus on why I love it so much. Like, I like Powered Vintage Cube. I think it's fun. It's a little sweet treat for me. I play it sometimes. And then sometimes I love playing the Fem Cube. Because it's like sometimes you want to, back to the Ferrari reference I made, or the Lamborghini, sometimes you want to go 220 miles an hour, and sometimes I just want to cruise along A1A, East 1 Avenue. Little vanilla.
Girls were hot wearing less than bikinis. Rock man lovers driving Lamborghinis, jealous because I'm out getting mine.
Yeah, yeah. But you see what I did there. But like what I mean, ice, baby, or under pressure, depends on where you go. But what I'm trying to say is, a community, we have to become a community. We have to signal a community. How do you feel about these statements, May and Usman? That was and Vanilla Ice, I guess.
I love them.
It's kind of weird. Like, it's kind of like if I was to say, like, kind of like what I said in another episode, where I was just like, I don't like Dave Mustaine's vocals, which in Megadeth, which, like, honestly, I like Megadeth.
It's okay to be wrong, but I'm not going to make fun of you for being wrong, Usman.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're supposed to be
We're
like,
all wrong.
Like, you're dumb because you like Dave Mustaine's. It's like, that's a very different statement if someone was to say something like that. It's like, well, your taste is
insulting
bad
at a certain point.
Would you judge me?
Like,
if I
Insert the pancakes and waffles comment.
Can I say, would you judge me on the fact that I love Megadeth and I like Dave Mustaine's vocals very much, but I cannot stomach anything by AC/DC. I've never liked AC/DC. It's okay. Because of the vocals.
I mean, it's all good.
It's okay to be wrong again, Stu. Apparently, I'm the only person that knows how to be right here with Moonshadow evaluation, but see how we're doing this friendly discourse. We're all kidding, right? We're friends. And May, again, you talked about waffles and pancakes, and We're all friends. In order for us to be an inviting community, in order for us to attract people who want to sit down and play Cube with us, I'm not saying we have to agree. We all come from different religions, and we're all different.
Okay. I'm gonna put a bit of a wall up right now between Cube and Vintage Cube, because I think we're kind of getting away from. If the comment was made, and I was not aware of, I don't know who it was or where it was posted or whatever, so I'm not going to get into. Well, I don't know. I'm not as active on social medias and Discords and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think there can be a healthy discussion that is not a yucking of yum when it comes to Vintage Cube, because there is, I know personally, and I know there's people out there who dislike the reputation that Vintage Cube has. Okay, in that it's kind of the poster child for the format, even though I think given the amount of content that is out there that is focused on it, be it Twitch, be it YouTube, be whatever, there is you could call it unhealthy, you could call it a vast, you can call it whatever. There is a lot of content out there about Vintage Cube. A lot of people play it, a lot of people love to play it, and because of the familiarity with all the cards, it is inevitable that if you're getting into Cube, you're going to run across it at some point or another. So I feel like there needs to be some separation there between I dislike or I like or I yuck of yums the Cube versus I dislike Vintage. And I really do, as much as I enjoy Vintage Cube to me is like steak. Okay? I like steak. I really do enjoy a nice steak. Steak is almost on a bit of a pedestal, and sometimes rightly so when it's cooked so beautifully and the sides are just wonderful. Steak can be absolutely delectable. It's also a kind of overrated in a way. Like there's plenty of dishes I would rather have than a steak, but oh my God, every time I eat a good steak, do I love it just about as much as I would any other meal. The pinnacle and this pedestal that Vintage Cube is put on, and why at least from my interpretation of why some people, at least from other comments that I've seen in the past, have disliked it, is because they've said that they feel like it is on a pedestal that is way too high given how relevant it should be for the rest of, and I'm going to keep calling it this, the super format of Cube, given how vast and how rich and how wonderful the number of cubes that are out there, that a lot of people will say have far superior gameplay experiences and far superior balance and far superior construction than certainly the Power Max Vintage Cube, right? And the reason why I highlight that is, and not to sort of call out the design aspect, but maybe I'm just going to do that anyway, some of the decisions that have been made in the design process for Magic cards over the years that are quite clearly mistakes that we can look at, because they've either been banned in Vintage Cube, banned in Vintage, restricted in Vintage, banned in other formats, whatever. They are kind of toxic in a way, right? You can look at something like Time Vault, which is stupidly broken. You could look at something like Initiative, which can create toxic gameplay patterns. Same with Monarch, right? So you've got all these elements of Magic that are kind of looked upon as being mistakes, and yet all the mistakes, it's like the House of Misfit Toys in a way, that have found a home in this Vintage Cube. And I will say that as much as I would thoroughly disagree that it is less skill intensive, or that you need a lower level of skill in order to compete with certainly some of the very, very high level and very capable Vintage Cube drafters, I certainly do understand it when people look at it and say it's just not a good advertisement for Cube. Because would you or not disagree? Usman, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that, and you can even take the Modo Cube, do you think that, or take a combination of the Modo Cube and like a Power Max Cube, do you think that cards like Time Vault, do you think things like Initiative, do you think, and even Minsk and Boog, like some of the more broken cards that have come out recently, do you think that they, as singular pieces, do a good or bad job of representing Magic in general, right, as a product that is used to create the super format and all the formats of Cube, compared to all the other fun stuff that is out there and is available to create and curate and provide a really, really fun experience for the drafters that you build the Cube for?
I'd say it's bad. Yeah, like for sure.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
intended to just say bad and just leave it at that, but just for the one word and just as the bit.
Yeah, I told
the
you once
problem is, it's like they're struggling for the content of nuance in the conversation, but don't quite have the dialogue to actually like initiate a constructive conversation. Instead, they just kind of throw out, I'm going to be frank, insults, where it's kind of like throwing out your kind of, look how much better at cube I am than these other people in this already really niche format, and it's unnecessary, right?
Well, so to give some more context to some of this, so one of the questions, I'll pose this to Usman and specifically to May. Do you feel that in a game of Magic, the longer it goes, the more strategy is developed, the more edges are that are relevant into a game, as far as like, think about like a chess game that goes long, right? Or a murky battlefield is the best.
So I think the point is that as Magic gets more complex and as we start to get more tools that allow for more complex game design and strategies and etc., that it becomes significantly more, let's say, content dense, right? Where there's just a lot more different strategies, a lot more options, a lot more various things. And I think I kind of get what you were trying to go for with the chess pieces, but I'm going to add an extra layer to it. Where imagine if chess had a new piece introduced every month, right? For the past however long chess existed, right? It would no longer start to look like the game that it was, right? Because all the pieces would just have new pieces. And to an extent, Magic is really similar, right? We very rarely see a lot of old cards. Like, we see a few here and there, but like, when you are trying to talk about the conversation, especially in the context of like vintage and whatnot, where these environments have the very clear definition of these are the most powerful cards in Magic, then we have to add the definition to that of they have a certain amount of performance, they have a certain amount of power, they have a certain amount of prestige, right? And when that reaches a certain density, you get a lot more options. Like your Power Vintage Cube, Anthony, is a lot different from, the regular Moto Power Vintage Cube, right?
Correct.
And it's not a bad thing. And I don't think that that's necessarily the metric of skill expression as much as it's the expression of game designers evolving their techniques and creating new cards.
Well, I want to do a better part of like formulating what I was trying to interject there. Forget chess. Sure. That's not, I didn't even mean to say chess. My question for Usman in so many words is a game that goes longer, murkier situations to solve, more edges, more singular pieces that you have to move on any game. I don't care if it's Risk or chess or I pick your poison. I don't care. Small World. I don't care. Magic. But any micro edges, any choices, does that make it have more strategic depth than something that goes fast? Picture this. We're going to go back to chess for a second. Everybody bear with me. Picture a game of chess that Usman, you and I are going to play chess. We're going to have a casual game of chess in the park. Versus Anthony sat in the mall one time and played against a 5-year-old that had a timer and would reach over and slap the turn. Bam. Move piece. Bam. Quadrant. Bam. It's a different type of game, right? It's a pacing. What I'm asking is, if a game lasts longer, does that make it more strategic? Question mark.
I think it depends. I feel like sometimes it compresses, if it's a shorter game, like it's always that joke where it's like, I mean, that's a joke. It's more of a trope where it's just like aggressive decks are mindless, but it's more that the compression of the decisions tends to matter more over probably a short time frame, where it's just like, there's a lot more emphasis, like kind of like a format like vintage constructed, where it's like, there's fewer. The old joke where it's like the early game is the mulligan, the late game is like turn one or something, just like, because things are so compressed over time, where it's just like there's a lot more decisions you have to do within a shorter time frame.
Definitely agree.
To expound upon that, we're going to go back to vintage for a second. Powered Vintage Cube, you got Anthony's, it's 540. Where's the strategic depth? We're going to do very binary response. Is most of the strategic depth in the draft or in the gameplay? Not knowing my list, you don't have to know my list, just assume it's Moto-ish. Where's most of the tasking, most of the I guess the strong play is going to happen? Is it in your choices of cards or the deck building construction? We can actually do 3 if you wanted to. Or is it in the playing of the cube? Usman.
I think it's probably. I'm not honestly sure how different it is. Like, it's definitely a different set of skills. Like, in terms of just like, it's that whole thing about just like aggressive decks versus control decks, where it's like, oh, aggressive decks are so easy, you just have to attack. Whereas like in different types of cubes, the skill set required in terms of just like finding your lane. I think there's some transferable skills, but there's also just like familiarity and like finding what lane works, which may be harder to ascertain in a format like that versus like something else.
Well,
which sounds like a cop-out answer, but it kind of
no,
is.
it's fair. It's a legit answer. Another thing that happens too is I'm going to go ahead and just swamp. I'm going to play Mox Jet. I'm going to tap them both. I'm going to Hymn to Torarch you. You're going to discard your Elishnorn, and then my next turn I'm going to reanimate it. What are you going to do, Usman? You got no man on the field. You scoop, right?
Well, I'll see what I can do, but probably not.
Yeah.
That's all what I can do. Probably not.
Yeah, or I'll do the scene more. We'll do Dark Ritual. Let's make this a little bit more smoother.
Can I ask the question? Is that an example you are using of like a low skill play that's available in the vintage?
I don't think
cube?
it's low skill. I think it's just it's a lot of variance. It's a lot of luck. It happens in poker, right? It's just how much control players have over a game.
I mean,
anyways,
let's face it, Elish Norn.
Actually,
Elish Norn is not even.
I screwed that story
used in the
up.
vintage cube much anymore.
Let me actually tell the story.
But I see your point.
Let me tell the story. So this actually happened. I had a young person that reached out to me online. They said they're going to go on Moda one day, and they said, "Hey, can you watch my games?" And I actually just screwed that up royally when I actually talked about it. But they said, "What should I do? I want you to watch." So like they're live streaming to me. I'm like, "Sure." I don't know how to. Actually, at the time, I didn't even know how to play Moto. I don't even know the keystrokes or what to do. Right? And I'm like, I just see their hand. They open up and they've got a swamp, Mox Jet. They have Reanimate, and they have Hymn to Torarch, and they have Dark Ritual. I'm like, well, I'm an idiot. Let's just play this swamp. Let's play that Mox Jet. Let's tap it. Let's do Dark Ritual. Produce 3 mana. Hymn to Torarch them. The OP discards randomly. Elishnorn went to the yard, and they almost thought I was a genius, which is funny because this is total luck, right? Like I'm like totally faking this till I make it because I don't know what they have in their hand. They discard that. It goes to the yard. I'm like, reanimate, and they're like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And then the person scooped. You saw them just scoop. I'm like, "Yeah, I know what's up." I actually didn't know what's up. I literally was guessing the whole time, but it was so neat to do it.
Listen, I think in a situation like that, you could make the argument that either you would just swamp jet him them, or you could play the Dark Ritual, and in that time, you're kind of hoping that
I went
something.
for pure hope. I had no stakes.
Absolutely,
but it worked out.
One is
it
probably
made me look cool.
Well, look,
how does that work on my skill?
One is a higher percentage play, right? Yeah. The higher percentage play would probably be to him them without the Dark Ritual, because then you're holding some resources back.
Yeah, I didn't think about all
the fun and the potential blowout is that you Dark Ritual, and then you get to again reanimate whatever their big creature is. It depends on how much knowledge you have of what they're playing. If I'd gone second against the Boros deck, I don't know if I would necessarily do that, just because Boros decks generally tend to be a little lower to the ground. But who cares? You made a huge play. How fun is that?
It was really neat to watch,
awesome.
And I watched them concede. It was awesome, but. Was that skill testing? I don't know. I went YOLO, and it wasn't even me playing. I'm just telling someone else to do it, which was interesting. But that's kind of one of the things that's been brought up is, well, it's not skill testing. Well, I mean, I guess. I mean, I kind of like did roulette, and I bet on black a little bit, and I put all my... What do we do with this, Usman? You see where I'm going with this, right? Like, where's skill even come online here,
Well,
right?
Okay. Can I expand on that? And Usman, you tell me whether or not you disagree. Tell me if you think that those glass cannon strategies are more or less intensive or skill intensive.
It kind of depends. Like, probably not. Like, it depends. Like, probably not. Like, it kind of makes me think though sometimes. Like, because when I started back playing Magic, it was like around when the time when Affinity was like the format was Affinity and Tooth and Nail, and so it was terrible. But it was like you would have the Affinity nut draws where your opponent goes like, land whatever, get out a Ravager super quick, or get a Cranial Plating out super quick, and then they would just get run over. But usually it'd be the pilots who, because there were certain games like that, where you would nut draw your opponent and they just die, and there's no real counterplay. It's like, okay, great, I just got nut drawn and I died. But it was where the pilots who were good at the deck, or just like where they, it's kind of like what separated those players who were just able to just rattle off the nut draws versus those who actually knew how to pilot the decks or be able to not just win with the nut draws.
Yeah,
which kind of makes it interesting because I think that happens like in cubes anyway. Like I think that'll happen. Like I think that does tend to happen more in those kinds of formats where it's just like you get nut drawn by just like power or something, and it's just like, all right, I guess I died. But I mean, sometimes I'll find that happen anyway in other cubes or just like other forms of Magic where it's just like I drafted the deck that wasn't supported and I died, and it's like, well, that sucks. I guess I didn't draft the whatever and I died.
Yeah, but how much of that sometimes is just getting the open lane and drafting and building a good deck and having the foresight to understand that I'm building a glass cannon, and if this goes right, I can look fantastic, and if it goes wrong, I'm going 0-3.
Happened last night in my artifact cube. I did the detective plus Mana Vault plus Walking Ballista. I literally nut drawed the detective, and just won the game.
Sometimes that happens.
And Sandwich's deck was better.
Right.
I just nut draw David peeked over. You know, we do the thing whenever the other person's like, "Are you going to die?" Leans over quietly, touches the top, looks at the top, puts it back. I'm like, "Well, I'm screwed." And then I flip it. I'm like, "Holy shit! I got it displayed!" And like, I felt so smart, and I yelled so obnoxiously loud, but. That was a little fun, right? Like, there's some periods in Magic, little moments. You know, for just a second, I felt smart. I played 3 cards. These 3 cards do the thing. Let me have my, my 15 seconds, 30 minutes of fame. I can parade around the room and go, "Hey, Usman, I beat you. I played Mana Vault Detective, Walking Ballista. I'm so good at Magic." And it didn't hurt anyone. I wasn't. You understand what I'm saying by that? Sometimes I just play Swamp. I go Dark Ritual, Hymn to Torok you. You're like, damn it. Got 1 black mana floating. Reanimate your Atraxa. I don't know what to do. I guess I scoop. It happens. I mean, it's part of the game, right? It doesn't matter if we do this low powered. I can go to the Fey Cube. What's your best card in the Fey Cube, May? What's the best card? The one that, if it enters the battlefield, people are in trouble. Besides Shivan Dragon, that should be in there.
Shivan Dragon's no longer in there. I know,
but it should be.
I know. I kind of want to put it back in, but I don't know what is the best card in the.
There's no bomb. One you can just like.
The problem is that there's a lot of them.
Okay,
give me a
fair
second.
enough. But. I mean, sometimes it happens, right? And I can't take away from that experience. Back to what I was originally...
Probably Mirror Entity?
Yeah, Mirror Entity is actually probably a good example. Yeah, that's a good closer. Once that hits the field, things are going to go south in that cube, right? Because it's changeling and you're running very much a type archetype. I see that. It's a bomb, right? And it comes out. And I think, to kind of get back to what we started talking about Usman in the beginning before we went off on all this tangent, you know, it's okay to lose. You got to learn how to lose if you're going to be able to win, right? Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah. I think like, and I don't know if it had really been discussed earlier in terms of just like some of the kind of antagonism towards Vintage Cube in general. I kind of feel like it almost feels kind of like, you know, railing against the status quo, you know, just like,
I agree.
Feeling like, oh, Vintage Cube is just like the status quo and just like railing against it and just feeling like, oh, those people who like this are dumb or something, or just like this is just like mindless. This is just like mindless, like hordes, you know, just like copying the Vintage Cube.
This is high-powered slop.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me started on like the way overuse of the term slop, because like that's just.
Yeah, you have to realize at a certain point
it exemplified my point.
Yeah, and I mean we're not special here. We're not on a pedestal, but at some point you have to realize at some point you're a bunch of nonconformists conforming to a bunch of nonconformists, therefore conforming. There's no way around it, right? Like it's paradoxical in a sense that if I can't yucking yum peaches, I don't care what we use, right? Our job is to gather. Like we're trying to make friends. Like I would have never met. I'm blessed to have met Usman and hung out with Usman the last CubeCon and the previous CubeCon. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't through the idea of Cube. I wouldn't have met May if May hadn't come on our show, because we made a little tiny show and she talked about her wonderful Fey Cube. I would not have met Chris if I hadn't have seen him for whatever reason running in a gym and I said, "You want to play Commander?" I wouldn't have hung out with Stu if our good friend Nathan hadn't said, posted randomly on Facebook, which is super terrifying. Don't do this. Do you want to come to my house? Here's my address. But my little lovely British friend that's sitting next to me is my best friend, hanging out with me, and we're doing a podcast together. If it wasn't for the gathering, we're not high horsing here. We're not pedestaling here. We're not on a pulpit. We're not trying to tell you how to live your lives. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. But I strongly, strongly believe if we're going to gather, we have to learn how to gather. And we can't say, well, the way you play Magic is dumb, and the way I play Magic is smart, and it doesn't have to do with turns, and it has to do with, all these cubes are wonderful. They're beautiful in their own way.
However,
don't do that.
So here's my hot take.
Go ahead, May.
My hot take is that cube is already one of the higher skill expressions in Magic. Like, yes, there's constructed magic. Yes, there's things like standard and etc., which requires you to understand like your current meta and know how to assess cards and etc. But when it comes to actually like pulling out a cube, one, being able to quickly identify what the environment is about, trying to figure out what your lanes are, trying to figure out what the signals are in the draft, right? That is one form of skill expression of what is my like ability to draft a deck here. Then you start going into the deck building phase of what are the relevant cards for me to build. Then you start going into the actual gameplay, which is also going to be more skill expressive. When we start trying to divide each other based off of this is the highest amount of skill expression versus my significantly lower amount of skill expression when I'm playing the vintage cube, which I don't agree with. It's just that the skill expression is different because the play style is different, right?
Yeah, I think you just need to ask yourselves, and dear listener, and thank you for putting up with this whole rant we did. I'm hoping this actually reached someone. We just need to realize that, well, everybody's a little different. We all appreciate different things. Again, Usman opened up with the different music that he personally enjoys, and so did Stu. And we talked about in a previous episode, if not this one, because they're all kind of starting to blur, people look at art differently, right? I'll go around and I'll see an Andy Warhol, and I might enjoy that, but maybe Stu's a Dolly fan and not an Andy Warhol fan.
I'm a Constable guy
myself. We can't really work ourselves around that, right? Like, it is what it is, but ultimately it's still art. We have to, if we're going to be welcoming or going to be a community, again, pulpit, we have to represent and hold our heads high and go, I understand you're a little different than me. I get it. I respect it. We're not all the same. Come try this. See how it feels. Maybe it's not to your taste.
There is... First of all, I don't disagree, but I want to, at least personally, lay what I believe to be a very distinct line between toxicity and petulance, okay? Petulance can be, at times, and maybe even at times rightfully so, described as being a form of negativity and a negative comment, a negative commentary, a negative attitude towards something. But I believe that petulance as a initiation of conversation and as something that can be thought-provoking can oftentimes be incredibly necessary and incredibly powerful as a conversation tool when it comes to something as broad as Cube, and especially something where we have such a large and growing community of very passionate people about Cube. And I'm not a yucking of yum. I'm not for one for saying your cube sucks. Your decision is bullshit. I'm not for that. But I think sometimes the petulance can be something that can be engineered to generate reactions and to create conversation in a way that ultimately does have the ability to be positive. And I think if we're going to expand Cube as a super format, and if we would like, and I would certainly say that at least from the people that are on this podcast right now, who have a desire to see its expansion and the creation and the exploration of Cube in general, I don't think it's a bad thing to kind of take what many people will do is to put Vintage Cube maybe on a unrequired pedestal and say, let's bring it down a notch and appreciate that while Vintage Cube may at times and can be a talent and a ability focused and centric and difficult to navigate cube, it is not the be all and end all. It is not the pinnacle. There's a million different cubes out there that present a much higher level of complexity and difficulty. And I think a level of petulance and and sort of a way of starting a conversation like that publicly, sometimes you got to kind of take one for the team and say, I'm willing to kind of put my name out there and say, I am willing to yuck a little bit in order to kind of raise the profile of everything else that's potentially out there. So whoever made that comment, I don't know the context. I don't know why they said what they said. But if the meaning of it was to expand the visibility and to improve what we all want to do, which is promote Cube and promote all cubes and get the conversation going about everything from ability levels to cards to complexity to everything, then I hope that the outcome of that conversation was something that can be beneficial for all of us.
Fuck yeah. Usman.
I was supposed to follow that.
Yeah, I don't got nothing. I'm going to leave that fuck yeah. That was amazing. Get in there, Usman. Say something smart now.
Get me somebody. Get me somebody while I'm waiting.
I can't believe that we're just demoting Usman to our personal entertainment at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing.
And on that note,
really good.
Thank you, Usman, for joining us again. This was fun as hell. I hope that I don't know who we reached, but maybe somebody listened. If you did, you have thoughts on this episode, hit us up on all of our socials. We'll include those in our... I'm not even going to bother with that. We just want to have a real conversation about like how we've just seen a lot of this happening, and we're not going to stop it. We have no... I don't even know how to follow.
We have no power to stop it. But
we're not going to stop it. People are entitled to their opinions, and opinions is what make us unique. It's whenever your opinions start taking away the uniqueness of other people is when it becomes problematic. So that's it. That's it. I'm old. We're going to say the thing that we always say here at UbiCube is Stu actually did a really good speech. We don't know how to follow up with it. We're going to try to say
this isn't
happy
the thing that we
cubing, but it
say.
went on really long. And then all of us say it at the same time because we don't know what else to say is happy cubing.
And as always, to all of our Patreons, thank you so much for the ongoing support. If you're not a Patreon, it's like $3 a month. Okay, I know times can be hard, but if you can help us out, keep the lights on. I really could do with a new computer. Mine is really starting. Like, if you were here right now in this room, the fans are going so loud, it sounds like the house is about to take off. So if you love the content, help us out.